Narrativa and,
Narration,
y guionismo.
screenwriting,
Mm,
screenwriting.
yeah, that's the only one that more or less.
Yeah. Well, those seem to be important topics for you, for your career, for your development, for your growth. It's a pity that we teachers don't always make the class very interesting. Sometimes we
Mm-hmm.
make it boring or not.
Oh, also ethic.
Okay. Can I hold on a second, Mitch, really quick? I have to answer a phone call from somebody in Mexico City.
Sure,
Really quick.
sure,
I'm
sure.
sorry. Sorry.
¿Qué pasó?
Ay, es que acabo de sacar de tu baño. Por prisa, perdón. ¿A dónde fue el profe, Michelle?
Sorry, Mickey. How are you today? How's it going, Mickey?
Hi, teacher. Good afternoon. I'm doing good. Thank you very much. And you?
Fine, thanks. So I just got a phone call from a lady in Mexico City with another teacher. He's a very nice person.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it was a quick phone call that I was expecting, but it was very fast. Yeah, Mitch was telling me about her classes. She finds some of her classes boring, and it's a pity because uh, how can you make something challenging for a person? You need to look for the right balance. If it is very hard, so people can get demotivated, right? Demotivation. Then if you have it in the right track is motivation. And then again, if you if you do it very difficult, if it's very easy, it's like a mountain. If it's like a mountain. If it is very easy, you're not very motivated because it's easy. And if it's also very difficult, you lose motivation for the same reason because it's not it's because it's difficult. And this is normal. I mean, this happens to everyone, right?
Yeah.
If your trainer tells you, okay, Mickey, let's train, do two push-ups, you say, oh, two push-ups, come on, that's nothing, right? But he can
Yeah.
also tell you, do 100 push-ups with one hand. You say, well, wait a minute, I'm maybe not a beginner, but I'm an intermediate, or maybe not a professional. I don't know.
Mhm.
You can find the duties extremely difficult or extremely easy and non-challenging. So, how to find the right track is a challenge for teachers. Actually, well? Tell you what, is a challenge for teachers, and is a challenge for parents, and is a challenge for partners, and is a challenge that we all face as humans. Uh, Mitch was making a very interesting comment. If the class is very easy, we are not interested. And I was a student too, believe me. If the class is very difficult, the same, right? So too easy, or too difficult. But that's also strict. That's also the same in everything. I don't know if you agree with this or not. Let's say that you are going to, not now, in 10 years, 15 years, I don't want to even say, one day you will build a family, right? And you need to decide with your partner if you're going to be too strict or too lenient. Too lenient.
Are you sharing, teacher? Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I'm not. I'm sorry. Now let me share. I'm writing and you're not seeing what I'm writing.
Mhm.
Okay, let me show you here. Okay, so here is my idea. In the school, and you have many situations. You need to look for the balance. School, family, work is exactly the same, right? So the work can be too easy or not challenging enough. Not challenging enough. Or can be too demanding, too demanding. And so you see that there is a challenge to balance out the situations. I don't know if what do you have to comment about this, Mitch? You think that the balance is easy or difficult to attain, to get? What do you think?
Mm, in the school?
No, I'm sorry, in any situation. Maybe one day you will have partners in your company, or you will have investors, or maybe you will have other people in your business, maybe not. So, in situations with people in general, school, family, and work, let's talk about school and family, school and work. What do you think? How do you
I
find the
think
balance?
I think in every case the leaders have to make a diagnostic of their abilities of their team or members of that organization uh, to know which is the level in some activity for them. If everyone gets a pretty low result, well, the things have to be easy, and then the difficult have to increase, right? If someone just one person, it's more uh, abilityful, um, well,
More
of
skillful.
course, skillful, going to be boring for them. But if everyone has a very good, are very skillful, but the activities are pretty easy too. Maybe the results, even with that, don't going to be the best ones, the better ones.
I absolutely agree with you. You know what is a problem from the teacher's perspective? When there is a huge disparity in the group, you have a couple of really bright students, and you have a couple or one really slow student. That is a hell of a problem for the reason that you just stated. If you go very fast, the students who are a little bit slower will be lost. And if you go slowly, the people who are brilliant get bored.
Oh.
And that is the typical challenge teachers have when there is a group disparity or when the disparity in the group is evident. How do you think you could solve this situation, Mickey?
Mm, well, obviously there are classes that must be in group because uh, all the students starts from the in the same level, but probably in classes like English or well, I think that for example in Instituto I will do that. I will do that. For example, English classes could be for levels, you know, because for example in my case I'm looking the same that I look when I was in my elementary school,
Yeah.
you know, and it's like for me, it's boring because you lose like this motivation to learn something new, you know.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, because you have the feeling of the time. You have the feeling of a waste of time. You say, I could be
Mm-hmm.
learning many
Exactly.
more
Yeah.
things.
Can I
Sometimes
comment
you,
something, teacher?
please, Mitch, please.
I'm totally agree with Mickey, and it's not just in his group. It happens in all the careers and all the groups. My theory it is, well, this happened to us, I think, two times until now. The first one was in the first semester of high school, because there's a new group, there's new people from a lot of different schools. Then the institution has to make a, how can I say, promedio?
Average, a
Uh-huh. An
balance,
average,
balance out.
an average balance of all the skills. In if there's, how can I say desnivel?
Unbalance or disparity.
Unbalance and disparity of the knowledge of the different institutions from the students come from. There's have to, for everyone, have to low the level, and it's happen. This happened too in the university because everyone were from the different institutions. And even if in our high school we end with a high level, then the institution have to lower the level again for all the new members from the other institutions that maybe are not, there's not come from with the best average at the end. That's my theory.
Yeah. How would you champion an idea? How would you foster, impulse, promote, foster, impulse,
What
uh,
means that? Foster.
champion? More or less the same. You impulse an idea, you champion an idea.
Foster.
Foster, give reinforcement, give support. They are more or less the same. You foster an idea, you impulse an idea, you champion an idea, you support an idea, you suggest an idea, right? How do you um, yeah, impulse your idea so that it's taken into account in the school, in the decision media, with the decision makers of the institution? How would you do that? Because there are certainly people like, maybe not many, but there will be people like you, like Mickey, that have great ideas that can help not only yourselves but help the institution become better, because who cannot become better? Everyone can
Uh-huh.
become better. So if this idea is going to make the institution better, how would you convince them, how would you persuade them to carry out an idea that's going to be for the benefit of everyone?
Mm, well,
Taking, sorry,
no, go ahead.
maybe taking the results of other institutions that try something similar as my, like my tia, and
Well,
they
exactly.
get they get good results.
Yeah, but somehow you need to document the data. In other words, you need to tell them, look, what they're doing at Tec de Monterrey is this and that. What they're doing at Univa is this. What they are doing at this institution is this and that. And that has brought them results. So doing the benchmarking is a fantastic idea, but then you need to support it with some type of document or evidence, which it shouldn't be difficult. And I like your proposal very much, actually. What do you think, Mickey? Thank you, Mitch.
Um, well, it's a hard question because I think that at least in our school, mm, the school don't take attention to those kind of things because mm, the way in how they do that is how can I say this? Yeah,
How?
they work in this way since since so many years ago,
Okay.
and yeah, I don't think that they will be uh, able to do a change like that.
Okay, well, if the changes are difficult to implement, we were talking about the other day about learning organizations, right? We were talking about how organizations learn that means there is a feedback system in which you do anything and there is a constant return from people to tell you, Mickey Mitch, that was fantastic, or you know what, we made a mistake here, that could have been better. Those are
Mhm.
learning organizations that have lots of feedback. So feedback is very important, but it's not always achievable.
Yeah.
Feedback. You provide feedback. Look, we can do this better. And if people don't listen to that, well, the organization will not be learning, right? That's a stagnant, which is a risk for many organizations. Maybe at the moment they are successful because they make other good decisions. Who makes purely bad or
That
purely
means
good decisions?
estancado. I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yes, Mitch. The organization can be stagnant if there is no flow. Well, how much longer are you gonna be there? One more semester, Mickey? Two, three more semesters? One, two more, 3 years, Mitch?
In my
Like
case,
3 years.
one more
Okay,
semester.
one more semester. And in your case, 3 more years. Well, that's still a long time. I would, if I was in your position, Mitch, if I were you, I would probably give them my ideas, like, and talk to the people who can make decisions there, and tell them, look, I make this suggestion so that you can implement it. I don't know if that
Mhm.
is the coordinator of the career, or that is the director of the school, or who that is. But there should be a person, or the owners. There is a council of 10, I think, council of 10 people. Council, I believe it's 10 people who are in charge of the top decision making of the school. So this council, I know at least 3 people from here, which are, I think one is Javier Cuen, right? The other
Hmm.
is his sister, Tuli, Tuli, brother and sister. And there is a lady by the name of Montibel. I think those 3 people, there must be 10, but I know 3 people. And if you tell them your idea, you tell them, hey, Javier, or hey, Tuli, I have this suggestion. Why don't you do it? And then, but of course, you need to pass this through your dad first of all, right? He's the first filter.
My dad
But
usually says that I can say nothing.
well, then he knows why. There must be a reason.
Yes. Yeah.
And I would take his advice. If he says that you better not say much, there must be a reason for that, right? Because also, he's in a strategic position, and people need to be very, very prudent, very cautious,
Yes.
because
Yes.
in this case, it's not only, it's also dad who is in a strategic position, and it's better sometimes not to. Well, you understand what I mean. Okay, well, let's go to the topic that we were discussing the other day. Remember, that was very interesting, I think.
Yeah.
So this was infrastructure, and we were talking about infrastructure in the city, infrastructure in the countries, infrastructures, and there are downsides of infrastructure. On the right hand side, Mickey, please, you will see the downside or the disadvantage of developing infrastructure indiscriminately. Can you please read on the
Yes,
right
sir.
hand side? Downside.
Downsides. Roads, dams, and other infrastructure can create noise, air, and water pollution that increases as development grows.
Okay. Um, that creates pollution, water pollution. You see the infrastructure in Leon, for example. You have 3 cities. Let me show you 3 cities, and please tell me what advantages you see and what disadvantages you see in these 3 cities. Let's say Leon, Irapuato, and Salamanca. Leon, Irapuato, Salamanca, which are the 3 top industrial cities in the state. What is the major industry in Leon? What do you call this industry? Here, Mickey.
In Leon?
Yes.
Mm,
The major cities? Oh,
The major industry in León is the tanning industry, right?
Oh yeah,
Tanning
that's
industry. Tanning
Jose
industry.
Antonio Diaz.
This is in charge of developing which products.
Oh,
That would be what? How do you say piel y calzado?
leather.
Leather and footwear. All right. And what is the main problem this industry causes?
Mm,
What does it pollute?
Probably the materials that they use
For the
for
tanning,
the
yeah,
tanning.
yeah, and that's water. It
Mm,
requires a lot of water, and the water gets polluted. Pollutes water with chrome and brome. So it's heavily polluted, but immensely polluted. Now, what's the problem in? Well, let's go to Salamanca first. What's the problem with Salamanca? What industry do they have? What industry do they have? The
mm,
major industry,
petrol.
petrol industry. What is the product they get from that industry?
Mm, gasoline.
Gasoline. And what is it that they pollute?
Air.
Air and water too. They also pollute water dramatically, right? And then in Irapuato we have uh, two, mostly two industries. One which is the agro industry, and another one which is what?
Mm, oh,
You have like Castro del Rio, you have the industrial
industrial
park.
parks.
Yes, industrial parks. Industrial parks. Those are the industries mostly for cars, right? For cars,
Mm-hmm.
mostly. But they also have other applications. Well, what do they produce?
Mm, well, uh, fruits and vegetables
Yes, on the one side, on the other, car
and car
parts.
parts or pieces.
Car parts or pieces. Pieces is better. Thank you, Mickey. Car pieces. Okay, and they also pollute. They pollute, um, well,
Water.
water. They pollute water. They also pollute the soil. Believe it or not, but the soil also gets polluted with the waste of the pesticides, fertilizers.
really?
Yeah, they little by little start polluting the earth, the soil. For example, in León, the growers don't grow potatoes anymore because the soils have got all kinds of bacteria that attack constantly the potatoes. So they changed the crops. In Irapuato, something similar happens. You need to be rotating the crops. If you don't do that, bacteria develop that constantly eat the goods that you plant. So you need to be rotating the soil. So I'm sorry. So it was water, water, the soil, and well, that's it. Uh, well, this is the problem or the downside of technology. You develop a technology to produce something good, but it creates problems. So these are the pros and these are the cons. Pros and cons, right? Okay, thank you very much,
Mm,
Mickey. You wanted to mention something, Mitch?
not really. Just well, I think those corporations had to improve their machines, their technology more and more to rest that kind of problems.
Absolutely, absolutely. And this is normally regulated by the government. The government is in charge of two apparently easy tasks, but they're not always easy. On the one hand, they want to attract industries. So the government, the government, I'm sorry, attract industries. The government attract industries. But on the other hand, what do they have to do, Mickey, Mitch?
They need to uh, they need to take care of the environment in general,
Absolutely.
of the different consequences.
Exactly, that's correct. And so it's a difficult situation, a little bit like the diagram that we were showing in schools, family, and work. On the one hand, the government wants to attract industries, but on the other hand, they have to establish regulations and rules that need to be complied with. So companies need, like Mickey says, need to comply with the environment. So they cannot be extremely strict because then the companies go to Guatemala or Nicaragua or Central America. But on the other hand, they cannot be very lenient because if they are very lenient, well, I believe they are more lenient than we wanted to. But if they are very lenient, then the companies, as it's happening now, absolutely pollute the water, the soil, and the air. And that creates a tremendous health problem, an issue in the industrial cities like Irapuato, León, and Salamanca. So it's also looking for the right balance, which is easy to name, but it's not easy to figure out, right? So that is the challenge that governments also face. You know, it's a challenge for everyone. Also, the government has to find the balance in these decisions, attract enough companies, but also make them comply with the law and the rules and regulations. So looking for this balance is not always easy. Well, but let's continue then. Types of infrastructure that we have here. Can you read on the left, Mitch, please? Highways, streets, and roads.
Yes. Highways, streets, and roads. Bridges, mass, transits, airports, and airways. What means airways?
The routes that airplanes take to reach the different places, the airport. There
Oh,
must be routes because otherwise they can get lost and can provoke an accident. So the airway should have certain regulations as well. They rotate right to left, a certain angle, and a certain distance from one another, certain velocity.
okay, okay.
Traffic control is quite challenging as well. Imagine that you're controlling the traffic of an airport of like Mexico City, Guadalajara, Monterrey, Houston. Imagine.
Hmm. Right,
Okay.
right. Thank you. Then airways, water supply and resources, waste management and wastewater management, power generation and transmission.
Yeah, well, that's also incredibly important. Do you know how the composition of a power plant is, more or less? You have an idea, Mickey, how a power plant is built? Which are the components, most important components of a power plant?
Mm, no, teacher.
Okay, I'm sure you can Google for at least a couple of them. You're going to have a generator, a power transformer, a steamer, um, a transformer, of course. So if you want to generate power, you have a generator here. So let's put the most important components.
Boiler.
A boiler or a steamer. Boiler or steamer, yes. Boiler, boiler. That's one that generates the fuel to propel the turbine, and the turbine moves the generator, and the generator generates electricity that is sent to the step up transformer, and the step up transformer transmits or connects to the power lines, and these power lines will feed the cities. You will send energy or power to other cities from a transformer. That's all the idea, right? You generate certain voltage, three-phase voltage, and that three-phase voltage is going to go through the power lines from the power station to the houses, hospitals, power lines. And then the same thing happens on the other side, where you have this power transformer. This is here. Let me just here. Okay, you connect this here, and then this is in your house. I mean, not in the house, in the city. And this power transformer steps down the voltage from 400,000 kilovolts. You have 400,000 kilovolts. Imagine 400 kilovolts, and it steps down to 127 volts AC in the plug to where you connect the computer and the cell phone if you want to charge it, right? So you have voltage in your house, you have power in your house thanks to these power stations, and you have, so this is necessary, but they pollute a lot too. You have the power station in Salamanca, for example, the Termoeléctrica, that pollutes drastically as well because they work with coal. That is also a problem. I mean, it's a necessity to have power in the cities, otherwise we wouldn't have electricity on the one hand, but on the other, what is the problem that these power stations provide or provoke, Mickey?
Mm, well, obviously, pollution in general.
Yes. This type of pollution is what? Air pollution or water pollution or both?
Both.
Yeah, the air, because they use what Mickey just mentioned, the boiler, and the boiler sends fumes to the air, drastically polluting the air. But also, they need water to cool it off, so it also pollutes the water. What other sources of energy do we have? Well, we have solar energy, but can you look up the percentage of solar energy, wind energy, and coal energy that we use in Mexico, please? Or nuclear energy? Let's make a small chart, please, if you can have an idea of what percentage of different power sources we
Over
have.
3%.
For what, Mitch?
Huh?
3% for what?
Nuclear power in Mexico.
Yeah, 3%. Very low, right?
Mexico has two nuclear reactors generating over 3% of its electricity.
3% of electric power. Okay. What other sources do we have, please?
5.3.
That's for what?
Mexico has two operational units of the Laguna Verde nuclear power plant, LVNPP site, which accounted for 5.3% of total electricity production.
Okay, that's nuclear power. What other types of nuclear power, generation power, do we have? That generation power is nuclear, can be coal, be steam, can be water, yeah, a hydroelectric power station. So what are the percentages of the other types of energy production, Mitch, please?
Could you repeat the last question?
Yes, we generate power with nuclear energy, with solar energy, with
Natural
coal,
gas.
natural gas, yes. Yes. Do you know the percentage of the power that we produce with those, Mickey?
I found here Mexico energy. In Mexico, we use our energy by natural gas in 34.45%.
That is significant, right? 35%. How about wind and solar energy, Mickey, please? And coal energy too.
Hmm. In 2010, the renewable energies that we used in that year was of 7.8%.
That was renewable energy.
Mm-hmm.
Renewable energy. And solar energy, you don't have, well, that's part of renewable energy.
Yeah,
And
in part of the 7.8%, just 0.1% was solar.
wow, that's very little. And it doesn't give you anything about coal energy, right?
Coal in 2010 was of 4.9%.
Okay. Well, let's make a conclusion of this chart. Then we'll continue. What do you think of this chart, Mickey?
Um, yeah, wait me just a little bit. Yeah. Um, the majority of the energy that we use is from natural gas power, and I think that is something bad because obviously all that all those energies are not uh, how can I say this, renewable.
Renewable, exactly.
Yeah, and it is necessary to try to use other kind of energies like the clean energies, solar energy, wind, for obviously there's a lot of money to invest if we want to do that change, but I think that is necessary in the future.
Okay. Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, let's take a quick look at the production of nuclear power in France, please. We already saw this graph. Just to compare it really quick. You say
Nuclear
nuclear
power is
production
the ones which are the nuclear power is the cleanest, right?
is the cleanest if you know what to do with the nuclear waste.
Mm.
I mean, it's like a house is very clean if you know what to do with the waste. But if there is leaks, if there are leaks where the nuclear waste gets disseminated and is going to produce, like in Chernobyl, lots of cases of cancer, leukemia, and other diseases, there's going to be a tragedy. So yeah, it's the cleanest if you know how to use it, how to use the waste. Right? Yes. So I agree.
Okay, okay, okay.
Okay. Uh, what is the percentage that France uses for nuclear energy? I think we saw this graph once
Yeah,
briefly.
France generates roughly 70% of its electricity from a nuclear fleet of 56 reactors.
Nuclear energy. Imagine 70 versus 5. So you would say that they don't pollute the environment, and obviously is much cheaper, and they can, even once the energy is converted into joules, you can sell the excess energy to Germany, to Spain, to Italy, and you make additional profit with that. But you need, like Mitch says, you need to be very, very careful what to do with the nuclear waste. Maybe your question is, well, the Americans have a lot of power plants, nuclear power plants. What do they do with the nuclear waste? Do you know?
No.
Do you, Mickey?
Not sure.
No. Well, they bury it. They bury the nuclear waste.
What means bury?
They
Bury.
store it.
They store it. They bury it. Entierran. They bury the nuclear
Ah,
waste in the deserts. Sometimes in the deserts of New Mexico, sometimes in the deserts of Mexico, so that
Hmm.
there is
ah,
no difference. Yeah, truly. San Luis Potosí, for example, Zacatecas, Hermosillo. So they choose nuclear cemeteries to bury the nuclear waste. Uh, Not always people get to know these facts, but it is evident. Actually, if you look up in Google, just by curiosity, nuclear cemeteries in San Luis Potosí, right? Nuclear waste in San Luis Potosí, Mexico. You will see uh, some cases where New Mexico, well, that's in New Mexico, but also in Mexico. Hazardous waste management, tiraderos de desechos tóxicos y radioactivos, San Luis Potosí y en Durango. Okay, you will see this. Well, it's not that it's gonna kill the population, but it's important to know that this happens, right? Well, that's the waste management. Also, it's important what to do with the waste. So let's go back. How to improve it here? Can you read on the right, Mickey, please? How to improve it?
Yes, sure. How to improve it? Create markets for infrastructure, projects, and services. Enhance the attractiveness of infrastructure projects for private funding. Overhaul infrastructure for radical innovation and productivity growth.
Okay. What can you comment about that, Mickey? How would you create markets? How would you convince people to invest in Mexico?
Yeah, obviously, it's like if you want to sell something, you must show the benefits that you have. For example, like country to the investors and show the. Well, I think that Mexico has a lot of resources, has a lot of uh, space to grow, and obviously if you show in a correct way and supporting the idea of the investors, obviously I think that will be easy to them to invest here.
Yes, very good. Absolutely. Okay, Mickey, thank you very much. Mitch, if you can please, let's read the first question and can we answer it with your own words?
mm-hmm. Answer the question, then discuss the answer with your classmates. How will you define the infrastructure in your country compared to other countries? Well, first we have to think which country, because we are not the worst one with the worst infrastructure, and of course neither the better one. Um, well, but we have to take the important elements of the public and private sectors, the systems of health and agro-industrial and agriculture, um, and things like that, right? Education.
Well, you're talking about very important topics. You said health, agro-industry, power generation, education. I would add automotive industry too, because that is a major source of growth, economic growth, but also a big source of pollution. So, and
Okay.
I would also include, Mitch, the petrol industry.
Okay.
Petrol industry. All right. How would you compare Mexico with other countries in these areas? How is our health system compared to Canada system or Germany or Cuba or Guatemala, of course?
Saying the statistics of each one.
Okay, you would see the statistics. Um, Statistics. Okay. what would you look for if you had to do like an analysis? What would you look for in these topics? What would you look when about this?
Hmm, I had to search about their systems on all these sectors.
Okay. For instance, in health, people say that our health system is this and that, but at the end, the bottom line, what is the bottom line? Um
Where
I
is the
would
bottom
say
line?
the bottom line, the base of the discussion. If you compare, you want to compare apples with apples, right? So if you talk about health, how can you say our health system is better than Guatemala's health system, or our health system is better than Cuba's health system, or is worse, or is better than the US, or is worse? What is the bottom line? What is the reference? Well, one of the items that I would talk about, I don't know you, Mickey, Mitch, I would say life expectancy. That would be one of the topics, the
Sure.
references to compare. Maybe a percentage of child mortality, which would be the parameters that you would use to discuss if one country is better than the other. You need to compare something with something, right?
Yes.
So I would say child mortality, uh, fatal diseases eradication. I mean, vaccination coverage. I would say that is vaccination coverage. What fatal diseases have been eradicated? What other thing would you consider, Mickey, as important to compare the health infrastructure of one country with the other one?
Uh, will be the accessibility. How can I say this?
Oh,
Uh,
access to health, universal access to health, or what?
yeah.
Health institutions. Absolutely. I think this is in prevailing. This is very important. What else would it be? Well, that's enough. We can choose more, but let's. That is part of what we would compare in the health industry. We would compare Mexico with other countries. When we talk about this is agro industry. I'm sorry, health. When you say agro industry, Mitch, what do you think about?
Our industry.
Yes. What would you compare? If we compare health, we would
Uh,
use this. But if you compare health,
um,
compare agro industry. I'm sorry.
the way of the systems of disinfection of the products
Uh,
or the quality, hygiene, flavor, the processes that which is better to conserve more the vitamins of each food.
okay. Vitamin contents of the food. Okay, that's an idea. I like that. What else would you? Thank you, Mitch. What else would you consider as important parameters to compare agro industries, Mickey?
Mm, um, could be mm, the variety.
Variety of what? Crops or what?
Yeah, mainly crops.
Variety of crops. Okay. Can I say, for example, the percentage of arable land that
Yeah.
is actually cultivated? Let's say that in Mexico, 60% of the land is arable, right? 60% of the land is arable because there is water nearby, the soil is fertile, is appropriate to grow something. But from that 60%, maybe we're only growing 10% or 20% or 30% or 50%. So we are not using all our resources.
Yeah.
Whereas in other countries like Israel, for example, you see that 5% of the land is arable, but that 5% is changing. Now they are making the desert fertile, and now they have 10%, and in 5 years they are expecting to have 20%. So they are fertilizing the desert, whereas maybe we are in Mexico, we are eroding our fertile soils. We're causing erosion. I don't know, but could be, right? We're doing the opposite. I don't know.
Yes.
So the percentage of arable land that is cultivated. Okay, that is a way to compare one country with another. In power generation, we just mentioned something, right, Mitch? You said something about power generation to compare one country with another.
Mm-hmm.
What did you say?
I forget.
Oh, you know what? The kilowatts produced, kilowatts produced or generated. Mexico generates so many kilowatts compared to France, for instance, compared to the US, compared to Canada. So power generation, the amount, the net power, the net amount of power generation. How much power do you generate when power is in watts, kilowatts? Can you very quickly compare the amount of kilowatts generated in Mexico versus France, for instance? Let's say very quickly, just to compare France with Mexico. And we say who produces more, and we need to know how many inhabitants are there in each country. And I think France has, has 60 million, and Mexico has 125 million, I think. So that's the population. What is the power generation in France, please, per year?
The production
Yeah, the generation of watts, yes.
in 2019 was of 10,569.
Kilowatts?
Uh,
Or megawatts?
GWH.
GWH. Gigawatts per hour. Wow, that's incredible. Gigawatts per hour. Okay, that was in France or in Mexico, Mickey?
In France.
In France. What about Mexico, please? What is the power generated in Mexico? Just to see who generates more power, right? That's simple.
Mm,
You can say power generation in Mexico. How much power is generated in Mexico?
Per capita, this is an average of 1,986 kilowatts.
1,000 what?
986.
86 per person.
Mm-hmm.
Let's multiply this by 125 million. There are 125 million people, so it is this times 125. Please, that is what? It's gonna be 500. It's gonna be 50% of France, I think. If it was 2, let's say that this is 2.
2.48.
Cannot be because it's two times. Oh no, I'm sorry. 248. Yes, 248. What? Gigawatts. Yes.
Yep.
So is that more than France or less than France? Is kilo mega giga 248 gigawatts. So it's actually more, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it gives us an idea. We need to check this data. 248 versus. Okay, no, wait. It looks like it's less. We need to check this information to contrast uh, world power production because it's not. I mean, Mexico is much larger than France. We have much more people, but the production of power seems to be way less. Let's check this data. Yes, please.
Yes, sure.
We check this. When we talk about education, Mickey, how would you compare the infrastructure of Mexico versus the infrastructure of France, Germany, Italy? How can you say, oh, we're way better than France, we're much better than Germany, we're about even with China and the US? How would you compare the infrastructure and the educational level of Mexico with other countries?
Uh, with the different social services that are available in the country.
Okay, that would be number of universities.
Of
Would that be?
hospitals.
But we're talking about education.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, number of universities. Number of people with some kind of degree or major.
Of bachelor's degrees. Okay, what else?
Mm, percentage of people that right now is studying.
Okay, percentage of people enrolled in college, or in college. Do you refer also to basic education?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. What else? Thank you, Mickey.
Mm,
Number of universities, number of people with bachelor's degrees,
mm,
enroll.
I'm not sure of this subject, teacher.
Would you think that the percentage of desertion is an indication of how people are making progress? Percentage of desertion. How many
Making
people
progress
desert?
in in what? Making progress in which way?
If, for example, the efficiency rate at one point in time when I was in the educational management system in 2000, in the year 2000, the efficiency rate in Mexico was 3%. What meant that? 100 people enrolled in primary school, 3 people obtained a bachelor's degree.
Mm,
That means, or that meant that the efficiency rate in 2000 was 3%. 100 people got in primary, 3 people completed their bachelor's degree, their career. They became engineers or doctors or architects or designers or business majors or whatever. That
I
was back in.
think I think in these cases it's not that much the fault of the students. It is the one of the institution because how you gonna lose too much students uh, for anything? You are doing something wrong.
Well, some people deserted in primary school. The percentage of desertion was very low. Many people deserted in junior high for many reasons, because their parents didn't have money to pay for the tuition, because some of them emigrated to the US, some of them had family issues, many reasons. We made this study when I was the director of Unidex in 2000, and there was this system, our brother system, which was the Vivas, Video Bachilleratos. So we conducted a study, and the results show that many of the students deserted for a variety of reasons, emigrated to the US, dropped out of school because they needed to work. There was family violence, the families dissolved, the kids got into drug habits, they basically flunked because they didn't have the resources to buy books. So it was a horrible statistics, but it showed the truth of the story, right? In 2000, 100 students got into school, 3 finished. But that has improved drastically, I think. But this is the last information that I have, because it was back then when I was in the management system of schools. So, but this is for education. So maybe we can consider the desertion rate. How many people desert, or how many people complete their studies? That's for education. As you can see, we're actually doing lots of major discussions in a short time, talking about the
It's like a
indicators.
scientific study.
Yeah, more or less like that. Yes, that's actually what it is, a scientific study to determine the causes of the different industries and the value we are placing on infrastructure, which we haven't touched that point. We still haven't discussed how important it is for a city to develop the infrastructure as much as possible. Okay, let's do a couple of questions more before we finish, and talking about examples of infrastructure that we can find in our city. What do you see in our city, Mickey? Mitch?
Mm, that we
Hospitals?
have social services, and we have internet. Not in all
Okay,
the streets, but in the majority of them.
okay.
Water counts?
What are what?
Counts?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, it counts a lot. It's one of the most important resources.
Mm,
Agriculture?
Okay, agriculture is the industry, and what would be the infrastructure for agriculture? Would you say the
Mm,
number of wells? How many wells are there in Guanajuato, for example? I don't
uh,
know if you know this. What percentage of all the wells in Mexico are there in Guanajuato? What percentage of wells, pozos, are in Guanajuato, in the state?
I don't know.
Well, we are 30 states, or 29, 30 states, right? 31, I think. What percentage of the wells are in Guanajuato? What do you think? Well, 25%.
Oh, really?
Yes. So we are using 25% of the water of the country just in Guanajuato.
Well,
And as much as we get, as much as we pollute, of course. Well, not so much, but we're using 25% of the water of the country in Guanajuato. Um, well, that's an advantage on the one side, on the one hand, but on the other, we are polluting it. So it's also a problem. Um, One last benefit that infrastructure provides that is not mentioned in the chart here, Mickey.
mm, that if you have a good infrastructure, you're more attractive to new investors, and investors.
Absolutely. It attracts new investors. Yes, it attracts new investors.
Michi, piensa mucho.
That's looks very simple, but it's very important.
Ahorita le queda, ¿no?
Well, let's make a challenge for homework. Let's make a challenge. What can we do to improve the infrastructure, let's say, of our cluster, our colony, our city, and our country? Let's leave that for homework. What can we do to improve the quality of infrastructure of our cluster, city, and country? What about that, Mickey?
Yes, teacher.
What was the meaning of the cluster again?
Cluster is the group of streets that are surrounded by a protective fence, like in the case of in Los Arcos is the small, not the small, the set of streets, the group of streets that are close together and protected by a fence. Cluster is like a
Yeah.
small space in which some streets are. Like San
Okay.
Francisco would be a cluster. Another cluster would be, I don't know, other places. What do you think?
It's okay.
Yes, teacher.
Very good. Okay, Mickey, thank you very much. Let's finish here then. And when do you think we can meet again?
How many classes left, teacher?
Yeah, this is
For
the
this
third
week?
one.
Yeah, I forgot if we have a total of 4 or total of 5.
5.
There were 5.
Oh,
I forgot. Mickey, do you have that fresh in your mind? Because we had pending classes and I forgot if it was 1 or 2. We normally have 3 hours per week, but we were dragging 1 or 2 classes from previous weeks.
I think it was 1.
I
I don't know if
honestly
it
don't
is
remember.
1 or 2.
Well, I tell you what, can you guys please check and let me know tomorrow or Friday if you're so kind?
Yes, teacher. Of course.
I can
Okay.
Friday. I just
You can
say
on Friday. You can. What about you, Mickey?
I can in any day.
Okay. Tomorrow is a bit busy for me, so if you don't mind, I'd love to do it on Friday, and if there is another one, on Saturday.
Okay.
Yes,
Yes?
teacher. Yes, perfect.
Yes.
Okay.
No problem.
Well, as usual, guys, a pleasure working with you. Enjoy your day, and see you on Friday then.
Yes, teacher. Thank you very
Thank
much
you,
for your
teacher.
time.
Take
Have a
care.
great time.
Have a wonderful day, you too.
Bye.
Bye,
Take
Mitch. Bye,
care.
Mickey.
Take care,
Take
teacher.
care.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.